when news broke on February 5, 2024, that country music superstar Toby Keith had passed away, millions of fans around the world felt a deep sense of loss. At only 62 years old, Toby had been fighting stomach cancer for more than 2 years. Even during his most difficult moments, he had continued to show courage and honesty, often sharing updates with his fans to let them know how he was doing. He never hid his struggle, and that made people admire him even more. His passing was peaceful, at home, surrounded by his wife and children, but the sadness was heavy. Toby was not only a famous singer, he was a husband, father, friend, and an important voice in American culture. For decades, he had given his fans songs that lifted them up, songs that spoke about love, patriotism, hard work, and the ups and downs of life. Losing him meant losing more than a performer. It felt like losing a storyteller who had sung the soundtrack of America. And while the world mourned, his family prepared to face a private discovery that would surprise them all. Hidden in his garage, behind the cars, tools, and familiar sights of home, was something that told a different story about Toby Keith, one that few had ever seen. Toby Keith's life had always been marked by determination and strength. Born in Clinton, Oklahoma in 1961, and raised in nearby Moore, he grew up in a working-class family where discipline and grit were part of everyday life. As a teenager, Toby worked alongside his father in the oil fields, waking up early and putting in long shifts. That experience taught him responsibility, but his heart was also pulling him in another direction. He played in bars at night with his group, the Easy Money Band, dreaming of someday turning songs into a career. When the oil industry collapsed, Toby tried semi-professional football for a time, but music never left him. In 1993, his big break came with the release of Should Have Been a Cowboy, a song that shot to the top of the charts and became one of the most played country songs of the decade. From there, his career soared with patriotic anthems like Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, and heartfelt hits such as You Shouldn't Kiss Me Like This. Over the years, Toby won awards, built his own record label, and became one of the most respected voices in country music. Yet through it all, he remained grounded, never forgetting his Oklahoma roots. His life was proof that hard work, persistence, and staying true to yourself could lead to extraordinary things. Behind the fame and success, Toby's heart always belonged to his family. He married his high school sweetheart, Trisha Lucas, in 1984. And together, they raised 3 children. Shelley, whom Toby adopted, Crystal, who followed in his musical footsteps, and their son, Tellen. For Toby, home was not just a place, it was his anchor. In the early 2000s, as his music career reached new heights, Toby bought a 160-acre property near Norman, Oklahoma, which he called Dreamwalkin' Farms. Named after one of his beloved albums, the home was designed not for show, but for comfort. It was a place where his children could grow up away from the spotlight, where family gatherings could happen, and where the chaos of fame could be left at the gate. The property had a large house, a fishing lake, and even a cabana for family relaxation. It also had one other feature that became deeply personal to Toby: a massive garage. For most people, a garage is just a place for storage, but for Toby, it was more than that. It was a space where memories, passions, and hidden treasures were kept safe. It was inside this garage that his family would later discover a side of Toby Keith that very few people had ever seen. Walking into Toby Keith's garage was like stepping into a living museum of American history and culture. It wasn't just a collection of cars, it was a collection of memories. Each vehicle told a story about who Toby was, what he valued, and where he came from. Parked proudly was a 1969 Mach 1 Ford Mustang, a car that screamed power, style, and ambition. Nearby sat a 1972 Oldsmobile Cutlass, blending strength and luxury, much like Toby himself. In another corner stood a 1977 Pontiac Trans Am, a car forever linked with the film Smokey and the Bandit, showing Toby's playful side and love of boldness. But perhaps the most meaningful car of all was a 1963 Chevy Impala that once belonged to his father. Toby had restored it with care, And for him, it wasn't just a car, it was a memory of childhood, family road trips, and the lessons his father had taught him. The garage reflected more than horsepower. It reflected Toby's life. For him, cars were not just machines, but time capsules, carrying memories of youth, success, and family ties. Each engine roar told part of his story, and together, they created a chorus of his journey from a small-town dreamer to a country music legend. But among the polished cars and tools, Toby's family found something far more personal than chrome or steel. In a quiet corner of the garage, tucked away near some old polishing cloths, they discovered a handwritten, unfinished letter. It was addressed to his wife Tricia and their children, and though some words were faded and incomplete, the message was clear. In the letter, Toby poured out emotions that he had rarely shared publicly. He wrote about gratitude for the quiet mornings with family, for the stillness of home that gave him peace away from the stage, and for the unconditional love he received. He also admitted regrets, missed dinners, late nights on the road, and the moments he wished he had been there more as a father. Perhaps the most moving part was his hope that his children would always choose love over fame, reminding them that family mattered more than applause. This letter was raw and real, stripped of the confident performer's image. It was not written for fans, but for the people he loved most. For his family, this discovery was more than words on paper, was like hearing his voice one more time, speaking directly to them from the heart. Toby Keith's success went far beyond his music. At the time of his passing, his net worth was estimated at around $400 million, a fortune built from record sales, tours, and smart business decisions. He owned restaurants, a mezcal brand, and even held a stake in Big Machine Records, the label that helped launch Taylor Swift's career. But money was not what defined him. In 2022, shortly after his diagnosis, Toby carefully signed his will, ensuring his wife and children would be taken care of. His wife Tricia stepped in to manage the estate, protecting their privacy and keeping personal matters out of the public eye. While the numbers and contracts were impressive, the real legacy Toby left behind was love. He worked hard not only to build his career, but also to make sure his family was secure. His careful planning showed that even in his final years, he was thinking of the people he loved most. That sense of loyalty and responsibility made him more than just a celebrity, made him a husband and father who understood the value of providing for his family long after he was gone. After his death, tributes poured in from every corner of the music world. Blake Shelton, one of his closest friends, called him the toughest man he had ever met. Dolly Parton described him as one of the greats in every way, while Carrie Underwood wrote a touching message imagining him riding up to heaven. Like a cowboy, fans across the globe shared concert clips, old photos, and personal stories of how his songs had touched their lives. Other country legends like Randy Houser, Ricky Skaggs, and Lee Greenwood honored his patriotism, generosity, and authenticity. For many, Toby Keith was more than an entertainer. He was a voice that spoke to the heart of America. His songs carried grit, pride, and emotion, giving people something to hold on to during tough times. Even though his voice is now gone, the songs remain, and they continue to inspire people to live boldly, love deeply, and stay true to themselves. In the end, Toby Keith's life was about more than fame, fortune, or awards. He was a man who carried his roots with him, who loved his family fiercely, and who shared his journey with the world through music. The discovery of the unfinished letter in his garage showed a side of him that fans never saw. The vulnerable father, the grateful husband, the man who wanted his family to know how much they meant to him. That letter, along with his cars and his songs, formed a picture of a man who was human before he was a star. Toby Keith will be remembered as a powerhouse performer, a patriotic voice, and a devoted family man. But perhaps the greatest memory of him will be the love he left behind, written not only in his music but in the words of that private letter. And that, more than anything, is what will keep his spirit alive for generations to come. Toby Keith was not only a country music legend, but also a savvy businessman who built an empire beyond the stage. Many artists focus solely on singing and touring, but Toby understood that music was also an industry, and he wanted control over his own work. In 2005, he launched his own record label, Showdog, Nashville, which gave him the freedom to create and release music the way he wanted. This independence was rare at the time, and it allowed him to shape his career without relying on others. But Toby's business sense did not stop there. He invested in a restaurant chain called I Love This Bar and Grill, which became a favorite spot for fans who wanted to experience a taste of his lifestyle. He later expanded into the liquor industry with his own mezcal brand, Wild Shot, which grew quickly thanks to his loyal fan base. One of his smartest moves was securing a stake in Big Machine Records, the same label that helped launch Taylor Swift's career. That decision alone turned into a multi-million-dollar success. By the time of his passing, Toby's estimated net worth was around $400 million, making him one of the wealthiest country singers ever. Yet, despite his fortune, he never bragged or flaunted his money. For Toby, business was a way to secure his family's future and to create opportunities for others. His story proved that a musician could be more than a performer. They could also be an entrepreneur, leader, and visionary. Behind every hit Toby Keith sang was the heart of a songwriter. He often said that songwriting was his true passion, and it showed in the way his songs connected with people. Toby's lyrics were simple, but they carried deep meaning, painting vivid pictures of American life, love, family, and pride. From the tender words of "You shouldn't kiss me like this" to the bold energy of "How do you like me now?" He had a gift for turning real experiences into music that felt personal to every listener. Unlike many stars, Toby wrote or co-wrote most of his own songs, ensuring that his music always carried his voice and perspective. He once explained that songs came to him like stories, sometimes inspired by conversations, sometimes by memories, and sometimes by the world around him. His songwriting process was not about chasing trends, but about staying true to what mattered. Even his more humorous or playful tracks, like Red Solo Cup, showed his ability to capture everyday joys in a way that made people smile. Songwriting was also a source of healing for him. During his battle with cancer, music gave him strength, and even when his body was weak, his pen was strong. In many ways, Toby's songs became his legacy, a living diary of who he was, what he believed, and how he saw the world. Long after his passing, those words and melodies will continue to keep his voice alive. One of the reasons Toby Keith's career lasted so long was his deep bond with his fans. He never saw them as just an audience, he saw them as part of his extended family. At concerts, Toby had a way of making even a massive stadium feel intimate, like he was singing directly to each person. Fans loved his honesty, his bold personality, and his ability to make them laugh, cry, and cheer in the span of a single show. He was also known for being approachable, often taking time to meet people, sign autographs, and share conversations. Beyond the stage, Toby's social media presence showed glimpses of his humor and his gratitude, with posts that made fans feel included in his journey. Even during his illness, he continued to share updates, assuring his followers that he was still standing tall. This honesty created a sense of trust and loyalty that many artists never achieve. For fans, Toby wasn't just a star, he was one of them, a man who loved his country, his family, and his music, just like they did. That connection explains why his passing felt so personal. Across the world, fans shared stories of how his songs helped them through hard times or gave them pride in who they were. Toby's ability to touch lives through music and personality was one of his greatest gifts, and it's why his fan base remains strong even after his death. Toby Keith's influence on country music cannot be overstated. At a time when the genre was shifting and evolving, Toby brought a unique blend of traditional storytelling, modern energy, and unapologetic patriotism. His music often broke rules, mixing humor with heartbreak, rowdy anthems with tender ballads, and bold political statements. With timeless love songs, some critics didn't always agree with his style, but fans embraced it because it was real. Toby wasn't afraid to take risks, and his individuality inspired a new generation of